You open the fridge. You barely look. You grab whatever is closest, whatever is easiest, whatever your brain has already decided you want before you even see it. This feels normal. It feels like nothing. But your ancestors would find this moment almost incomprehensible. For nearly all of human history, that fridge did not exist. There was no grocery store, no bread aisle, no labeled boxes promising exact calories. And yet, humans survived. Not just survived, thrived, spread across nearly every environment on Earth. The real answer to what they ate is far stranger than meat or berries. It is a story about flexibility, risk, and a diet more varied than almost anything you eat today. Start with a myth you have probably absorbed without questioning it. The idea that ancient humans before farming ate mostly meat, hunted in packs, and lived like something out of a documentary about wolves. This image is incomplete. It is not wrong exactly. It is just missing almost everything. Anthropologist Richard Wrangham, who has spent decades studying the diets of early humans, argues something surprising. Cooking, not hunting, may have been the real turning point for human evolution. Fire let your ancestors unlock calories that raw food simply could not provide. A cooked root delivers more usable energy than a raw one. A cooked piece of meat digests faster, freeing up energy your body once spent breaking down tough raw tissue. That extra energy, Wrangham suggests, may have fueled the growth of something remarkable: your brain. Think about that for a second. The most defining feature of being human, your oversized, energy-hungry brain, may exist partly because your ancestors learned to char a tuber over a flame. But cooking came later. Before that, and alongside it for millions of years, the diet of early hominins looked nothing like a single food group. It looked like opportunity. Picture your ancestors moving across a landscape without a plan for dinner. No planted crops, no stored grain. Just whatever the environment offered that day. Roots, tubers, nuts, insects, shellfish along the coast, eggs stolen from nests, fruit when it ripened, meat when a hunt succeeded, or more often, when a predator's leftovers could be scavenged before hyenas got there first. This is called a generalist diet, and it is one of the most important survival strategies your ancestors ever developed. Here is why that matters. Specialist eaters are fragile. A koala eats almost nothing but eucalyptus leaves. Remove that one plant and the koala starves. Generalists are different. They can shift, they can adapt. When one food source disappears, they eat something else. Humans became the ultimate generalists, and that flexibility may be the single biggest reason your species did not go extinct during the dramatic climate swings of the Pleistocene. Anthropologist Catherine Milton, who studied the diets of primates and early humans extensively, found something telling. The digestive systems of humans are strikingly adaptable compared to many other primates. Your gut is not built for one food. It is built for many. A stomach and intestines shaped by hundreds of thousands of years of unpredictability, ready to process fibrous plants one week and fatty meat the next. Now here is where the story gets stranger. You might assume meat was the prize, the reward, the center of the ancient plate. But evidence increasingly points elsewhere. Archaeologist and researcher Amanda Henry examined dental plaque, the hardened residue left on ancient teeth from Neanderthal remains. Trapped inside that plaque, she found microscopic starch granules, traces of cooked grains and plants, not just meat, not just fat. Actual evidence of dietary diversity that included starchy plants long before farming ever existed. This upends the caveman eating only steak image almost entirely. Even Neanderthals, often stereotyped as brutal meat-obsessed hunters, appear to have eaten roasted plants regularly. Diversity was not a modern invention. It was ancient survival strategy. So what did a typical day of eating actually involve, long before agriculture? Mornings might begin with foraged fruit, if the season allowed it. Afternoons often meant digging. Roots and tubers require effort. They require knowledge, knowing which plants were edible and which were poisonous, knowledge passed down verbally for generations. Evenings might bring meat, if a hunt or scavenging attempt succeeded that day. If not, insects were an easy backup. Termites, grubs, ants, high in protein, easy to find, and still eaten by foraging societies today. Coastal groups had it slightly easier. Shellfish do not run away. They do not require a spear or a chase. Just patience and a rock to crack them open. Some researchers believe coastal foraging, rich in fatty acids found in fish and shellfish, may have played its own role in brain development, adding fuel to Wrangham's cooking theory rather than replacing it. Here is the striking part. This diet was not steady. It was not 3 meals a day at consistent times. Some days brought abundance. Other days brought almost nothing. Your ancestors' bodies adapted to this unpredictability by becoming remarkably efficient at storing fat during plentiful periods and surviving lean stretches without collapsing. Does that sound familiar? It should, because your body today is still running that same ancient software. Your intense cravings for sugar and fat are not a personal failure. They are an inherited survival instinct from a world where calorie-dense food was rare and unpredictable, and craving it hard when you found it kept you alive long enough to reproduce. Your body does not know the difference between a modern grocery store and a Pleistocene savanna. It still reacts as though today's meal might be your last reliable one for a while. That is why a donut can feel almost impossible to resist. Your ancestors' brains would have reacted the exact same way to a rare piece of ripe fruit. Now consider something even more counterintuitive. Modern hunter-gatherer societies studied by researchers, including groups like the Hadza in Tanzania, often show remarkably strong cardiovascular health despite consuming significant amounts of fat and meat. Why? Because their diet is not just meat. It mirrors that ancient pattern, wildly varied, seasonal, physically demanding to obtain, not processed, not stripped of fiber, not engineered to be eaten in enormous quantities without triggering fullness. This reframes the entire question. It was never really about meat versus plants. It was about variety versus monotony, and about food that required effort to acquire. Farming, when it eventually arrived roughly 10,000 years ago, actually narrowed human diets in some ways. Grain became central. Wheat, rice, and corn eventually dominated meals in a way no single food ever had before agriculture. Some researchers argue this shift, while it allowed populations to grow explosively, also introduced new health problems, nutrient deficiencies, dental decay, a reliance on fewer food sources than your foraging ancestors ever depended on. So the wild irony is this. In many respects, your distant ancestors before farming likely ate a more varied, more nutrient-diverse diet than many people eat today, surrounded by more food choices than ever before, yet somehow narrower in what they actually consume. Think about your own week. How many different plants did you actually eat? Not flavors, not brands. Actual distinct plant species. Most modern diets circle around a shockingly small number of staple crops. Ancient foragers, by contrast, might have consumed over 100 different plant and animal species across a single year. Your ancestors were not eating for pleasure alone, and they were not eating from habit or convenience. Every meal was a small negotiation with an unpredictable world. Every food source represented effort, risk, and knowledge passed down through generations who could not afford to get it wrong. So the next time you open that fridge without thinking, without effort, without risk, remember what that simple motion represents. Not a burden, not a boring routine. A privilege your ancestors spent millions of years without. They did not eat to indulge. They ate to survive an unpredictable world, one varied, hard-won meal at a time. And now you open a door, and the unpredictable world disappears entirely.